Good morning. It's a good morning. It's the last day, right? To be honest, I was actually looking forward to the last day from the beginning. But last night I went home and I was praying for today's studies, and I had to change some things because in lecturing, it's not just a one-way street. It's a spiritual communication, spiritual fellowship, and I don't know about this class. It's very special, and you're drawing so much spiritually, and so I couldn't believe it. These people are so keen about genealogies. So I decided to do a little more on the genealogies. No, I'm not expecting that kind of response. But can you believe you're getting excited about more genealogies? And so I promised you that I will share a little bit about Jesus' genealogies. Originally, I was going to talk about tabernacle, but I'm not going to give you a short change on that either. I'm going to cover the overview of the tabernacle, and it should be sufficient for you to understand. And so this first hour, we are going to do an introduction to the genealogy of Jesus Christ. And this is part of the third book in the History of Redemption series. The yellow one, if you see it, on the side cover is yellow, and it's called the Lamp of the Covenant. And Jesus came into this dark world, just like God created light in the midst of darkness. Jesus was sent to this dark world, and He was the light. He was the lamp, and the author, in the beginning, in the introduction to this genealogy, talks about God who is greater than all. And from yesterday, we can think about how Abraham obeyed God. And I'm sure you asked yourself, would I be able to do the same? My answer is, I've been a pastor more than 10 years. My answer still is, probably not. Not, to be honest. I'm still a human being. Abraham was not a supernatural being. Abraham was also a human being full of mistakes. And there were times in his life where he couldn't really believe correctly. But he was able to obey and follow that path because God showed him something. It is God who has to give us that faith. It is God who has to show us. We're weak human beings. Unless we see something there, we will not move. Right? Unless we see something that's so amazing, we will not move. Right? And so, but God is so great, so big, that it is very difficult for us to fathom. We're living in three-dimensional world. We understand only within this dimension. However, God is way over numbers of dimensions. If you are keen or knowledgeable in science or quantum mechanics, you might understand. It's just way over our heads, and it's kind of like, this is two-dimensional, right? On this plane is two-dimensional. Let's say there's a being on this plane. There's a being on this plane. I'm three-dimensional, and this person, if he wants to recognize me, he has to look at me, perceive me on this. Sorry about the flimsiness on this one line. And he has to perceive me line by line by line by line. And he cannot really make a full picture out of me. What he perceives at that moment, if he's here, he sees a line of this. Okay? And so for him to determine or recognize that I am a three-dimensional being, it would take him forever to scan me line by line, right? But I tell him, hey, your friend is here, and this is Mr. Tissue, this is Mrs. Tissue. They're very close to each other. But I tell him, actually, I am closer to you than your wife. But because I'm not touching this line, this plane, he cannot perceive me. I say, I'm closer to you. I see all of you. I can take care of you. He doesn't perceive that. I say, this is me. And he only perceives that one spot where I touched him. This is me. I'm touching you. And he perceives me as that one little dot. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Right? God is so big, and we only perceive what we can as limited human beings. So Jesus comes and says, I am more than what you see. This is God. And so this first hour, I'm going to try to show you how big God is. You liked Sunday school material so much yesterday. I'm going to do another Sunday school type of thing. So you can put your pens down, just kind of enjoy this first hour. You don't even have notes for this one, okay? But from the second hour, you might want to take notes. Okay. God who is greater than all. John chapter 10, verse 29. My Father, Jesus says, my Father who has given them to me is greater than all. What is all? All means everything in the universe, everything that we can think of. And no one is able to snatch them out of Father's hand. And I and the Father are one. Jesus, a poor man from Nazareth who seems to be nothing, says, my Father is greater than all, and he and I are one. I am the same. I pray that you can believe and experience that this great God is your Father also. God who is greater than all. God who is greater than all. The size, let us think about the size of God who created the universe. The size of the sun and the earth. Let us begin there. The radius or the diameter of the sun is about 100 times that of the earth. Okay? Can you imagine? Okay. If the earth were the size of a ping pong ball, I forgot to bring the ping pong ball this morning. If the earth was the size of a ping pong ball, the sun's diameter would be about 5 meters. From that TV to that TV, probably. Is it more than that? Around there. Okay? Imagine a ping pong ball. That's the earth, and that's the sun. Okay? The sun's volume would be about 1.3 million times as of the earth. In other words, the sun is big enough to fit 1.5 million earths in it. So the diameter may only be that much longer, but if you think of a sphere, three-dimensional sphere, inside of that sun, 1.3 million earths can fit. That's how big the sun is. Nevertheless, the sun is only one of the 6,000 stars that we can see with naked eyes. Einstein estimated that there would be about 10 to the 25th, that means 25 zeros, stars in the entire universe. It is so many that even if a person can count to 20 in 1 second, anybody can count to 10 in 1 second? Even if you can count to 20 in 1 second, it would take 100 quadrillion years to count all of it. Okay? That's how many stars there are, okay, that Einstein estimated. What about other stars? The sun, as you know, is not one of the bigger stars. It's one of the smaller stars. Okay? Sun is a star. You know that, right? Okay, the sun is a star. Star is, all the other stars are like suns. It produces light and heat. The Earth is only a planet, only one planet in the solar system. And then there are other stars. Anybody dare to pronounce this one? It's not Betelgeuse, it's Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse, okay? Betelgeuse is about 427 light years from us. Do you know what light year is, right? Going at the speed of light and travel at that speed without resting for 1 year. That's 1 light year, right? But do that for 427 years, okay? And there's Betelgeuse. Its diameter is twice the Earth's orbit around the sun. So if this mic is the sun, my fingertip is the Earth, it's going around like this, right? That orbit is so much bigger than the sun itself. The diameter is twice the Earth's orbit around the sun. So if the Earth were the size of a ping pong ball, its diameter would be the length of 6 Empire State Buildings. Have you been to New York? It used to be one of the tallest buildings. 6 Empire State Buildings on top of each other. 512 million suns, not the Earth's, suns can fit into Betelgeuse. That's 665.6 trillion Earths. You're wondering, why are we doing this? Same thing you were wondering when we were calculating genealogies. Mu Cephei. These stars were not twinkle, twinkle little stars. If the Earth were the size of a ping pong ball, this star's diameter would be as long as 2 Golden Gate Bridges. In San Francisco, Golden Gate Bridges, which is about 2.7 kilometers. So 2 Golden Gate Bridges put together. Can you imagine? The Earth, and then the 2 Golden Gate Bridges put together, draw a big circle around it. It can fit 2.7 quadrillion Earths. In terms of time, 1 year has 31,536,000 seconds. Have I lost you with these numbers? Okay. 1 million seconds ago from now is 12 days ago. 1 billion seconds ago is about 31 years ago. Please disregard June 1981. About 31 years and 8 months ago. 1 trillion seconds ago is 31,709 to 31,710 years ago. 1 quadrillion seconds ago is 3,179,792 years ago. It's not fun anymore. Too big. Huh? Do you get how big and how far these stars are? But there's a bigger star, Canis Majoris, one of the biggest stars that scientists have found so far, and there are more now. This is kind of outdated already. If the Earth was the size of a ping pong ball, the diameter of the star would be as high as Mount Everest, about 10 kilometers long. Imagine trying to fill the entire state of Texas. Have you been to, do you know the map of, Texas is the biggest state in the United States. Okay? Trying to fill the entire state of Texas with ping pong balls about 56 centimeters deep. Filling the whole state of Texas with ping pong balls. Okay? That's how big, and that each ping pong ball is the Earth, right? That's how big this star is. What blows our minds away is that there are 10 to the 25th of these stars. These are not just a few stars that represent or that are there. 10 to the 25th of these stars in the universe. Now let us think about galaxy. Are you confused already? We have a solar system. The planets going around the sun, that's the solar system. But there's a bigger unit where such solar systems, so many of these solar systems are clustered together. And that is called a galaxy. Okay? Each galaxy contains about 300 billion stars, and there are at least 178 billion galaxies that mankind can calculate in this universe. One of the galaxies that are most clear and easy to observe in our sky is Whirlpool. Do you know which galaxy we are in? Milky Way, right? Milky Way galaxy. And it's about 31 million light years away. Speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, which is about 671 million miles per hour, 1.08 billion kilometers per hour. So that's the speed of light. You can fly 31 years at this speed to reach that galaxy. You're thinking, too far, too long. We don't have to care. But where is God in this? Or 1 light year is 5.9 trillion miles, approximately 10 trillion kilometers, 1 light year. It only takes 8 minutes for the sunlight to reach the sun. Okay. So imagine at that speed going 1 light year is 5.9 trillion or 10 trillion kilometers. And we are less than an invisible speck of dust in the air, right? Can you imagine how big the universe is now? And we are on that one ping pong ball, and you cannot even find you on that ping pong ball. Okay? Our question is not whether there are other beings in the universe. We need to focus on how great God is and how small we are. Out of the 6.5 or 7 billion people on earth, you are chosen by that great God to be his people. Doesn't that make us special? Why did he come to this small earth? We're talking about this because when we talk about Jesus' coming through the genealogy, where did he come from? Who is this God that is coming to save us? Who is this God? Why is he coming? We're waiting for him to come back. From where? How big is he? And to us, for that God who created all that universe to come down to save me, why? Why? And John 3:16 tells us it's his love. That's how great his love is. But people accused him to be fake, heretical, illegitimate. We try to tell God what to do and follow our desires. We tell him, if you don't do this, you're not God. God's supposed to be this way. God's supposed to be good this way. We are trying to define what God needs to be and how God should act. As if it was not enough for that great God to come down to us, we took him to the cross. So what I explained might have passed by. So I'm going to show it to you. Let us enjoy this video, and then we'll continue. how big God is. Can you kind of imagine how small we are in this universe? And can you believe He wanted to come to this earth, to us? I'm hoping that you won't lose faith because it's so big. But the point is, we need to understand how big our Lord Jesus is. It's not just in the scales of this earth. Took a long time to explain that, but I'll take a few more minutes to explain what does the great universe teach us. And I'm not sure about the multi-universe. This is something that I found on YouTube, and so you might want to put up a link for that for reference. And but what does the greatness of the universe teach us? In the 20th century, astronomer Edwin Hubble, you know, the Hubble telescope, right? Hubble discovered that the universe is expanding. Rewinding the process mathematically, he calculated that everything in the universe, including matter, energy, space, and even time itself, actually had a beginning. This is just looking at it from science point of view. From this theory came the theory of Big Bang. The fact that there was one beginning of the universe was inevitable. Conclusion is, everything in the universe came from a beginning. There must have been a beginning. And it came from nothing. Science is unable to tell us what or who caused the universe to begin. They came up with a theory of Big Bang, but some believe that it clearly points to a creator. There has to be one divine being that must have begun everything. A British scientist, Edmund Whittaker, attributed the beginning of our universe to divine will constituting nature from nothingness. Many scientists were struck by the parallel of a one-time creation event from nothing with the biblical creation account in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. And so they are finding that the Bible is the best explanation. Although they don't want to believe it, biblical account of creation is the best explanation that fits their science discovery. Until this discovery, scientists thought that the biblical belief that the creation of all things came from nothing is unscientific. Although he called himself an agnostic, Robert Jastrow was compelled by his evidence to admit, now we see how the astronomical evidence leads to a biblical view of the origin of the world. Another similar statement came from agnostic George Smoot, the Nobel Prize winning scientist in charge of the COBE or COBE experiment. He said, there is no doubt that a parallel exists between the Big Bang as an event and the Christian notion of creation from nothing. Cosmologists who specialize in the study of the universe and its origins soon realized that a chance of cosmic explosion could never bring about life any more than a nuclear bomb would, unless it was precisely engineered to do so. So these evolutionists are saying, by chance, because of a Big Bang, from there the universe is created and life came about. He's saying, can you imagine a nuclear bomb explodes and there is a life coming out of that? It's about, the chances are, unless it was precisely engineered to do so. And that meant a designer must have planned it. Super intellect, supreme designer. They give a lot of different names for this being. They're trying to avoid the word God. Yeah. So they say super intellect, supreme designer, divine being. Okay. Physicists calculated that for life to exist, gravity and the other laws of physics that govern our universe needed to be intricately tuned just right, or our universe couldn't exist. Okay? So the idea behind the fact that there needs to be a designer is opposing the idea of the evolutionists for an amoeba to become a human being or evolve into a living being. It's kind of like in the ocean, all different particles of metal and shipwreck, all these things happen, and these metals and all these different materials sink into the sea. Somehow through the tides and waves, they come together and over time become this. You know how intricately watches are designed to make sure that time is correct and it goes, everything's put together. Have you ever tried to take this apart? I have. I couldn't put it back. Yeah. But they're saying evolutionists, their theory is more difficult than this just coming off the shore, from all the other particles that sank into the ocean. So the scientists are saying even the Big Bang must have been intricately designed by someone or some being. For instance, if the expansion rate of the universe had been slightly weaker, gravity would have pulled all the matter back into a big crunch. Okay? If the expansion speed was not as fast and gravity was just a little bit stronger, it would have sucked everything back in. Okay? We're not talking about merely 1 or 2% reduction in the universe's expansion rate. Stephen Hawking writes, if the rate of expansion 1 second after the Big Bang had been smaller, even by 1 part in 100,000 million, the universe would have recollapsed before it ever reached its present size. On the flip side, if the expansion rate had been a mere fraction greater than it was, all the galaxies and stars and planets would never have formed. And we would not be here today. And for life to exist, the conditions in our solar system and our own planet also needed to be just right. Oxygen level, hydrogen, water, the size, temperature, rate, proximity, and chemical makeup, the distance from the sun, the rotation speed, revolution speed, the moon, relationship with the moon, everything needed to be just right. So we cannot say it just kind of happened by chance or by evolution. And there are dozens of other conditions that needed to be exquisitely fine-tuned, or we wouldn't be here to think about this right now. Scientists who are atheists and agnostics are unable to explain this remarkable coincidence. Theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking, an agnostic, writes, the remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life. So, is the universe an accident or miracle? What are the odds against human life existing by chance from a random explosion in cosmic history? For human life to be possible from a Big Bang utterly defies the law of probability. One astronomer calculates the odds at less than 1 chance in trillion. In other words, it would be far easier for a blindfolded person in one try to discover one specifically marked grain of sand in all the beaches in the world. I got 5 minutes. The odds of one random Big Bang producing life, as we know it, would be like one person winning over 1,000 consecutive mega million-dollar lotteries after purchasing only a single ticket for each. Hallelujah. Do you understand this? You buy one single ticket every Saturday, and you win every time. for over 1,000 times, not missing even 1 week. How great would that be? It's less than a chance of winning lottery like that. Not very likely, unless it was fixed by someone behind the scenes, which is what everyone would think. And that is what many scientists are concluding. Someone behind the scenes designed and created the universe. This new understanding of how miraculous human life is in our universe led the agnostic astronomer George Greenstein to ask, is it possible that suddenly, without intending to, we have stumbled upon the scientific proof of the existence of a supreme being? They didn't want to admit the presence and existence of God, but without intention, they kind of stumbled upon this fact that they cannot avoid. Although Einstein was not religious, and he didn't believe in a personal God, he called the genius behind that universe an intelligence of such superiority that compared with it, all the systematic thinking and acting of human beings is utterly insignificant reflection. Atheist Christopher Hitchens, who spent much of his life writing and debating against the existence of God, was most perplexed by the fact that life couldn't exist if things were different by just 1 degree or 1 hair. Davis acknowledges, there is, for me, powerful evidence that there is something going on behind it all. It seems as though somebody has fine-tuned nature's numbers to make the universe. The impression of design is overwhelming. Conclusion, all the universe is designed and moves according to God's plan and His will. Where is the center of God's will and plan? Can you imagine? Can you think? God must have designed all this so intricately, so perfectly, just for you. God would move the stars and the galaxies to save you. You sit there as though you don't believe that. You're being honest because it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But that is the truth that Jesus came down to this earth to tell us, I came for you. From where? From here, from above the universe. Then is God letting the entire universe operate for our sakes? Nehemiah chapter 9 verse 6, you alone are the Lord. You have made the heavens of heavens with all their hosts, the earth and all that is on it, the seas and all that is in them. You give life to all of them, and the heavenly host bows down before you. Psalm 19 verse 1, the heavens are telling of the glory of God, and their expanse is declaring the work of His hands. Let us come back after the break and think about how Jesus came to this earth.